somebody's just getting started within the industry, like they're a home roaster, they have like a 1 kilogram roasting machine or even like an Akawa, what would you say would be the best way to really start getting involved within the industry? Personally, I'm more under the impression of any experience is the best teacher, but what would you recommend for somebody that's really looking to take that step into the industry, whether they're a cafe owner or a roastery owner or even like an importer of coffee like yourself?
Definitely. I mean, for me, when I was just getting like started, I worked with this guy he was the roaster for this company, and he and I talked a bunch about like music and stuff like that. But like when it came to like coffee itself, like I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. And it's just because like I hadn't spent enough time like actually being a part of things. Like I didn't spend enough time like exploring and being like curious, And I think that like once that clicked, that like there was a lot that I had to learn, then things totally changed, because like I would go to the city and I would just go to every shop and I'd be like, oh, this place is so cool. Like, look at the branding of it. Look at how the people interact with one another. Look at how the cups are served. Look at, the plates. Look at the bags. Look at, how they describe the coffee and stuff like that. You go to enough of them and you start to get like this like base level knowledge of like, okay, cool. Like a lot of companies do X, Y, or Z. Like, okay, rad. Like that's a good thing to keep note of, because if I start a company, like I know that there's a lot of places that do like X, Y, or Z that I know I can do. As far as like figuring out like coffee itself and like its like profile and all that stuff, like, I mean, at the time it was like Instagram was just getting started, so it wasn't a ton of that. Like I would just like Google coffee roasters and I would order, I swear to you, I would order bags, and I ended up in like my house at the time, I would end up with like, 10 bags of coffee in my cabinet or something like that from all different roasters from all over the place. And I would look at the note on the front of it, like, okay, cool, this is like an Ethiopian natural, like it has notes that are described to be like jasmine, blueberry, and like strawberry. And I would drink it and I would think about it and just like really take the time to like really like explore and try to understand what was happening. Over time, like as I was working in the roastery with that guy that I was talking about earlier, that like I just didn't get it. He would go home for work and I would be like packing like online orders or something like that. And I would take these bags from home and I would like cup them blind. So I would like write down the notes on a notepad with numbers, and I would number the cups and I would put the bags away so I couldn't read anything. I'd shuffle everything up and then I would cup through it and try to match the numbers. Yeah. And I would say, okay, cool. Like I think that this one's this one, this one's that, which gave me like a really good understanding of like even like roast profiles, because like I would understand like, okay, really light roast is always, I mean, not always, but most likely it's going to showcase in this way. Versus a really dark roast, it's always going to showcase this way, kind of. And, enough time went by where it's like, I have a good understanding of how coffees cup and how to like evaluate them in a certain way. And then I also like gained a lot of understanding about how to like understand branding and like marketing of things by just going to coffee shops. So like, if anyone is like just getting started, like I would definitely say just like, look around. It's way easier now because now you can go on Instagram and you can find 160 roasters in like 5 minutes. But I mean, order a couple of bags, see what happens when you brew it up. Try to see what the roaster was going for.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second, but I think the part where you brought up about blind cupping, we actually do that with all of our samples that we get in, and I feel like it's the thing that I don't give enough credit to having such a large impact on being able to identify coffees and just have a general sense of coffees from different countries. It seems to be, I mean, when I look back on anything, probably next to taking any classes at Royal, it's like the one thing that just builds up your arsenal and safe of coffee knowledge and just develops your palate. It even just gives you the capacity to think about paying attention and just being present when you're tasting other things during different parts of your day, and you're able to like make the connection between those two flavor profiles. It's pretty interesting to see. But when you brought up the part about branding and marketing with your coffee company or your products, I think it is definitely easier because you could just go on Instagram and find all these different coffee companies. But I also think it's more difficult because now everyone can do that, especially the people that own their own coffee companies. So I would say, just to kind of add to your point of paying attention, I think too, you can also bring a lot of inspiration from different companies and different industries as well. Like you're talking about like skateboarding, like I even see a lot of like inspiration with coffee companies that kind of give credit to certain like skate brands. There's a lot of similarities there. It's pretty interesting.
It really goes back to like, as far as like standing out on like social media or something like that with your branding. It's like finding that like problem that you see and like identifying a solution, and then like that's your brand is like your solution. So if your like problem is like the coffee industry is no fun, which like it's a ton of fun, but like let's just say it wasn't, then you would just say like, okay, cool, like I think that this industry is like really like not that fun, and I want to have a really loud brand. Like I want all my colors to be really bright and like tie-dye or whatever, and all my captions are in all caps, and I explain things in like a really like cool, fun way. It's like you can do that totally, and you can totally stand out. I think like the thing that's happening on social media right now is like, to your point about everybody being able to do it, and maybe like me saying like go to coffee shops and find out what X, Y, and Z is, the common thread. Maybe that's like not sound advice, but it's like you can go online, you can see 100 companies, and sometimes it's like really easy to just replicate what you've seen 100 times. Yeah. But it like the really like special companies find like these really cool ways to just like provide something totally unique.
Well, I think you get inspiration from anything, whether it's a coffee shop or a completely different industry altogether. So I think your point makes a lot of sense too. I think branding in general is just like getting deeper involved within how can you reflect yourself and your personality, and just sort of do that in a way where it's like you are the company, right? And like how do you display your preferences or things that you find interesting well enough? I think you can find that anywhere.